Hello from my attic. Sometimes you know when you're living through history, and for me, the last week has felt like that. For each generation, there's been a coming of age, a moment that has really sort of changed the way people think about how life was before it and how life is after it. For my grandparents, it was probably Pearl Harbor. For my parents, it was probably more the Vietnam War. For me, and really in my generation, I would say it was 9/11. And now today we're dealing with COVID-19. One of the things that really stood out for me during the 9/11 period was a cartoon where they were walking into an airport and they said, "Where do you want to go?" They were going to buy tickets for the flight. And the response was September 10th. I'm not sure that there will be a period that we will go back to after this experience that will be similar to what it was before. And when events like this happen, it really sort of changes the way people think about how they live, what they want to do, how they're spending their time. And I think it actually presents a super interesting time right now for real estate. Because if you think about it, right, what is Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Food, safety, and shelter. What's going on right now with food is obvious. Everyone is scrambling to get as much as they can. Safety and shelter actually are having a super interesting confluence because shelter, which is what real estate provides, is inherently a roof over your head. However, the thought of how safety plays into shelter right now is very different because people are looking around and saying, hey, like, am I where I want to be? Is this a place that's safe because there's virus everywhere? Or if I am in a place where there's no virus or less virus, maybe that's a safer place to be. The other thing to me that's fascinating about this event compared to the others was certainly at 9/11, we were all shocked and terrified of what had happened, and we felt strongly for the people that lived in New York. But most of us didn't wake up every morning and be like, wow, there's a terrorist that might kill me tomorrow. When it comes to COVID-19, that's an entirely different situation because any of us could succumb to the disease. And worst of all, we could be a carrier of that virus and then pass it on to our loved ones. So as I think forward on the real estate standpoint, I think that there's actually going to be a lot of interesting opportunity that's going to come out of this. Inherently, I'm an optimist. I've always been an optimist. And when I think forward, I see that we're going to come out of this with some of the lowest interest rates that we've seen in years. Still like a very strong demand for property. I mean, the undersupply has been going on for quite some time. But the third thing that I think is sort of really most unique about this is I think people are going to think differently about where they live. Let me just elaborate on that a little bit. Over the last couple of years, rural has been quite out of favor, right? Everyone wants to walk to work. Everyone wants to be in a short commute because one of my beliefs is that when you walk to work, you can actually stare at your phone. When you're driving, you can stare at your phone, but you're not supposed to. So much of the demand and the sort of condensity, if that's the correct word, that we've seen over the last couple of years towards certain types of properties, I think people are going to look at a little bit differently. Here in Vermont, we've heard of many second homeowners that have been leaving the New York area, leaving the Boston area, coming up to their home in Vermont. Why? Because they have shelter here, but they also feel a sense of safety. Whereas over the last couple of years, rural Vermont, and for that matter, rural America, has been really depopulating and been quite unpopular within the real estate space. I feel like that is going to change. Look, in Vermont, like we're used to long periods of social isolation and self-containment. It's called winter, right? So here I am in my attic talking to you, wearing my flannel, knowing that we will get through this. And when we're on the other side of it, I don't think the world will look the way that it did before. Best of luck, stay safe, and wash your hands.